The Golden Globe. Chapter 6. You look terrible, Tahiri sang out to Anakin as he sat down at the dining hall table beside her. And he did. There were deep purple circles beneath his eyes. Anakin looked like he hadn't slept a wink. Trouble sleeping? Tahiri asked as she stuffed her mouth with a roll. Anakin was silent. Tahiri turned to face her friend squarely. Are you still mad about my idea of going rafting? She whispered. No answer. Well, don't be. For the first time that I can remember, I didn't have a dream about the river last night. Maybe telling you about it broke some sort of cycle. Now I'm free, she said with a giggle. So don't worry, we don't have to sneak out of the academy, and I'm sorry for suggesting such a risky idea. Yes, we do, Anakin replied. Now it was Tahiri's turn to fall silent. Finally, she sputtered, What in the name of the great Bantha are you talking about? The reason you didn't have that dream last night is because I did. Anakin replied softly as he stared at his uneaten meal. I dreamt I was in a raft on the river, and it was just like you said, only I was the one paddling and you weren't there. At least not until later. What happened later? Tahiri said under her breath. She wondered if Anakin could sense the fear in her voice. You drowned, Anakin quietly replied. I tried to save you, he added, but the river was too strong. I'm sorry. Anakin hung his head. He was ashamed he hadn't been able to save his friend. It was only a dream, he knew, but he also knew it was more than that. Tahiri was staring at him. She looked scared. You don't have to go with me to the river, Tahiri, Anakin said. But I feel like I'm being pulled there, and I think I've got to go see why. Why don't we talk to your Uncle Luke about this? Maybe he should come with us, Tahiri suggested. No, Anakin cried. It was the first time Tahiri had heard him speak in a voice much above a whisper. We can't tell Luke Skywalker. If we do, then everything will be lost, Anakin said fiercely. What are you talking about, Anakin? Tahiri asked. I don't know, Anakin replied in a surprised voice. But when you suggested we talk to Uncle Luke, I heard a voice inside my head. It said that we can't tell Uncle Luke or everything will be lost. What will be lost? Tahiri asked. I don't know, Anakin said with a look of frustration. This was not what he wanted. He was on Yavin 4 to study, to become a Jedi Knight. Now there was a strange voice inside his head telling him to keep something from his Uncle Luke, telling him to sneak out of the academy to raft a river. And the worst part was that he believed in the voice, felt that what it said to him was right. More than that, he believed that the voice came from a Jedi Master. In it, he had heard a strength and calm that was similar to his uncle's voice. Perhaps this unknown Jedi Master needed Anakin to perform an important task, a task that would pave the way for his becoming a Jedi Knight. But what if he was wrong about the voice? What if he was being drawn to the dark side of the Force? What if, he wondered, it's calling me just as it did my grandfather, Anakin Skywalker? There was only one way to find out. I guess I better start figuring when to sneak out of the academy, Anakin mumbled. You mean we better, Tahiri said with a grin. And don't worry, if we get kicked out of the academy, not that I think we will, you can come home with me. And be one of the sand people? Anakin replied with a little laugh. Thanks, but no thanks. Anakin fell silent. He wasn't sure he should let Tahiri come with him to the river. After all, she had drowned in his dream. Tahiri, maybe you shouldn't get involved in this, Anakin began. I know that you're worried about me drowning, Tahiri replied. But I have to come with you. We've both had the dream, and that means we're both supposed to raft the river. Something is calling to us, Anakin, Tahiri said in a faltering voice. And even though I'm scared, I'm going with you. The raft will be at the edge of the river, Anakin whispered to Tahiri the following morning across their class desks. How do you know that? Tahiri whispered back. I just know that same voice, the one that told me we can't talk to Uncle Luke about our dream, told me last night, Anakin replied. He stared in frustration at Tahiri. She wanted answers that he just didn't have. Last night, right before he'd fallen into the same dream, he'd heard the voice. It told him not to worry, that the raft he and Tahiri needed would be at the edge of the river, that they should both sneak out of the academy and go to the raft. What if the voice is evil? Tahiri whispered in a frightened voice. What if we're being pulled to use the Force to seek adventure and excitement, instead of using it for calm and peace like your Uncle Luke warned? I don't want to serve the dark side like Darth Vader did. Are you saying that because Darth Vader was my grandfather? Anakin asked in an insulted voice. Because if you can't trust me, then you shouldn't come with me. Anakin couldn't meet Tahiri's eyes when he said these words. He was afraid. afraid that Tahiri saw some evil in him, something that made him the same as his grandfather. No, Anakin, I didn't mean that you are anything like Darth Vader. It's just that we're trusting some strange voice inside your head, Tahiri explained. How do we know that the voice is good? I just know, Tahiri, Anakin replied in a trembling voice. And I'm going to figure out a way to sneak out of the academy in the next few days. Tahiri stared at her friend. She understood why Anakin was so upset. It wasn't just the voice in his head. If he got caught, she knew, a lot of people would be disappointed in him. His mother and father, his brother and sister, Luke Skywalker. Tahiri didn't have to worry about anyone caring whether or not she was sent home. That made it easier to take the risk. Still, Anakin was driving her crazy. She fixed her friend with an irritated look. Is there a problem here? Instructor Tiane asked her students as she walked up to their desks. No problem, Anakin replied. Except that neither of us seem to be able to lift this 2-kilo weight off our table with our minds, he said as he pointed to the work he and Tahiri were supposed to be doing. Then maybe you're doing something wrong, Tian replied. Both students turned and focused on the large hunk of metal that Tian had easily lifted onto their desk. The metal moved a centimeter at most. Anakin looked around the room. Several of the other students had succeeded in lifting an object with their minds. Across the room were 2 students who looked like huge black flies. They had each lifted their weight. Now they were happily buzzing. Anakin stared at them. They weren't stronger in the Force than he and Tahiri. He was sure of that. So why couldn't he and Tahiri perform this feat? We're not concentrating, Tahiri said, interrupting his thoughts. They tried again, but the metal would not move. All of you have different strengths, Tian said. You are here to figure out where your strengths lie. In frustration, Anakin squeezed his eyes shut and forced his mind to reach into the object. Be light, he commanded. At the same time, Tahiri was focusing on lifting the object. Anakin opened his eyes just in time to see the metal shoot toward the classroom ceiling. Wham! It struck with a thud. Both Anakin and Tahiri lost their concentration and barely avoided being hit by the weight on its way back down. It landed on their table. The table broke in 2. Good, Tian said, hiding a smile. You're learning your strengths. The rest of the students began to laugh. Anakin scowled. Tahiri giggled. How did we do that? Tahiri whispered to Anakin when the class had settled back to work. Anakin shrugged. Beats me. It's weird, but I was asking the metal to be lighter, and when I opened my eyes, it was shooting toward the ceiling. What did you do, Tahiri? I just tried again to lift it, Tahiri said. Guess we somehow make a good team, she added. She looked at Anakin and said softly, Okay, Anakin, if you say the raft will be there, then it will be there. And don't think I'm not coming with you. Wild banthas couldn't keep me from sneaking out to the river. After all, I've never been rafting before except in my dreams. Did you know that? Tahiri didn't wait for an answer. There's just one thing I've got to tell you before we go, Anakin. I don't know how to swim. I already figured that out, Anakin said with a frown. I guess that's one of the reasons we've got to be aboard that silver raft together. Anakin tried to smile at his friend. But in his heart, he was scared. What if he couldn't save Tahiri when she fell into the river? What if his dream came true?